the Minnesota Wild podcast, presented by Acrisure.
The Fan. From the ponds to the pros, it's time for Beyond the Pond on The Fan. Here are your hosts, Pat Micheletti and Kevin Falness.
Let's talk hockey!
Well, I have a feeling I know how this show is going to go, and this is not how I thought it would go when we were thinking about this show earlier this week, even last week.
I didn't
Patrick?
think I'd see you today.
No, I thought you'd be in Fargo 100%.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, after 1 and 2 periods, I thought that's where you would be 100%.
It's a great game, isn't it?
It drives you crazy.
It drives you crazy. It is the best game in the world because of so many things that happen throughout the course of a game that it's just, it's the games are never over. It's wonderful.
I still can't believe how that thing went down. And, of course, we're talking about the Minnesota Golden Gophers falling to UMass. They had the lead. They blew it. And then in overtime, Wally Shaver and Pat Micheletti lost their minds.
Here comes Chesley. He carries the center. He's tripped. How do you not call this? I know it's overtime, but for crying out loud, he's got the puck and he's tripped. Meanwhile, back comes Mass. They shoot. They score! Oh, my God. What poor officiating. Chesley's trip falls down. No penalty is called. UMass immediately turns it back up ice, and they score in overtime at 4:49 and win the game.
Patrick, you'd be so proud of me. I had my Alexa synced up with the TV feed, so I was listening to you and Wally for the majority of that game. When I finally got home, I was able to watch the third period. I was able to watch overtime. I was able to mute TV and listen to you guys. And when I heard that call, I looked at my wife. I said, "Oh my God, that is epic!
Yeah,
that was fantastic."
Wally,
he wears his emotions on his sleeve.
He does, and
you guys did a great job.
And he can, and that's fine. And I think I said this. I was on with Cindy yesterday when Jack called and had said hello to Jack.
Yeah, it was nice.
At 4:00 yesterday, right,
Yep.
Jack? Yep.
Is it Greg or is it Jack?
Greg.
I thought it was Buddy.
It's Buddy.
Oh, that's Greg
Could
Power.
be.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll bring him back next hockey season. But it's always, and that's why I say this game is so great, is that there's so many things that happen during the game. Unfortunately, we're talking about an egregious call that, I wish we didn't have to talk about it.
And it wasn't just one, though. I mean, the one in overtime was egregious, but that was one of a couple.
No, right. And, but there's pipes hit, and there's this, and there's, the game has so many nuances to it. But it really was unfortunate that the game had to really end on such, and it was in the neutral zone and there was nobody around except for him and the other guy. And you just went like,
egregious.
It was
blatant,
there. It wasn't
obvious.
one of those where, I didn't see it. I didn't. It was front and center.
Center ice, in front of everyone.
Yeah.
In front of God and all his brothers. It was right there in living color.
And the thing was, the guys were going through the handshake line from things that I've heard, and they said, this game shouldn't end like this. This game shouldn't end like this. And that's the UMass guys.
Yeah.
And, they know it, but what are they going to say?
What can you say?
No.
At that point, the damage is done. They weren't going to reverse it. I know in watching Bob Motzko on the bench after the game and then listening to his press conference, I mean, that's a level of mad I've never seen. He was pissed.
And you win games, you lose games, and automatically you go, oh, well, Minnesota went into a prevent defense. No, they did not go into a prevent defense in the third period. They didn't. And I don't want to get into the ins and outs of their game plan or whatever, but that's easy. It's an easy thing to say.
Yeah.
And all that. All I can say is, we have such a great game. Enjoy it. It's extremely hard to win. Ask Brad Berry up in Grand Forks. he won one 10 years ago, and now he's fired for having a great record for all these years, and winning conference championships and such. The college hockey is so darn good that it's really super hard to win.
Well, I mean, look at the results. It's basically a coin flip. Again, I know people do make a living off of betting on sports and college sports and pro hockey. I don't know how you do it because you cannot predict what's going to happen on any given night.
You can't. No,
the margin for error is so slim. I asked this question on Twitter on Thursday night, and you might know as well as anyone. What would Glenn Sonmore's reaction have been?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, he would have.
You think Wally had a connection?
Just to give you a visual of it, Wally and I were located literally because that arena, beautiful arena at Shields in Fargo, by the way.
Sure.
They do a great job, and it's beautiful. And we have a great vantage point. We are literally right behind the bench, about 10 rows up. So Glenn could have walked down about 3 steps and jumped onto the ice.
And probably would have.
100% he would have. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, and then to make matters worse, I mean, so you're bounced from the NCAA tournament. There's going to be a slew of changes. The Jimmy Snuggerud one, I think everyone saw coming. He turns pro, signs a 3-year entry-level contract. Will be skating with the St. Louis Blues on Monday, but there's now more breaking news that a couple more guys have signed, and with the Chicago Blackhawks. What's that?
Sam Renzel, Oliver Moore, both number 1 picks of the Blackhawks, apparently have signed entry-level deals.
This according to Frank Serratore on the Twitter machine.
Right, and they'll be making their debuts for the Blackhawks.
And I assume does that grab you by surprise? Did you expect that they would be turning pro? Right now?
I want to say yes and no. I want to say no, it doesn't surprise me because the Blackhawks like to get their draft picks in their system and, work them their way.
Yeah.
Look no further than the kid from Michigan State who was their number 1 pick a year ago. Lev Shinov.
Okay.
Lev Shinov.
All right.
Defenseman, Michigan State, number 1 pick.
Okay.
Signed with them. I think he was 4th overall in the draft last year. He signed. So it doesn't surprise me. Now, would I think if I'm advising them, I think both of them would have suited themselves better coming back for another year, a la Brock Faber, he did. And,
well, I mean, to a degree, Snuggerud did. He could have left last year.
Snuggerud did too, right? And I just think maturity-wise, strength-wise, improving facets of their game, to me. But sometimes you don't have a say in the matter. If your team wants you, I mean. So I wish they were coming back for selfish reasons and for the betterment of them. So they're more prepared to play in the best league in the world. I think both of them will probably end up in the American League next year. And I just think the college game and the atmosphere and their ability to get better is so right there. But that's a decision that they made, and we wish them both great kids, both heartbroken after the loss, and so you wish them well.
That's the breaking news from Frank Serratore on Twitter, a guest on Beyond the Pond in the past. He says the Blackhawks are signing both Sam Renzel and Oliver Moore to entry-level deals.
The Gophers may not be done yet either.
And that's another topic that we definitely want to get into. We know this much. Minnesota is done in the NCAA tournament because before the Gophers fell in overtime, it took double overtime to oust the Minnesota State Mavericks.
The Mavs, they work out in the left corner, cut out in front, Neffring with a shot right on the rebound, they score! Western Michigan wins it in overtime at 7 minutes and 14 seconds.
You guys got a precursor.
Did you hear my voice?
I did. Yeah.
I was thoroughly disappointed in that result. I thought the first period it was all Western Michigan. And from the second period on, I thought Minnesota State handled them. And they hit a pipe and they this, and that's the nuances of the game. But I thought they were the better team, in my opinion. I really did. And Alex Tracy was fabulous in the net, like he's been all year. Hobie Baker candidate, will be an All-American. But he was great, and I really wanted the Mavs to get through.
Yeah, it's too bad. I mean, of the Minnesota schools to advance to the NCAA tournament, the Gophers and the Mavericks both are ousted. Of course, the Gophers lose to UMass in overtime, and Minnesota State falls in double overtime to Western Michigan. Of course, the Gopher game was delayed because of that, and that's why you and Wally are sitting there with nothing to do, so you just decide to call the game.
I was like,
it was so much fun on the air to
hear
hear
says,
that.
We have to go on the air. I'm like, no, we don't. I mean, I'm going to look at my contract that says Minnesota Gopher games, not Western Michigan versus.
But that's fun as a little bonus, right? You get to watch a little hockey in front of you that you haven't studied for, that you haven't prepared for.
Can we talk about this off the air?
It was a little difficult.
Well, there's implications.
Yeah. I gotcha. Yeah, I know what you mean.
And but you know who joined us?
Who?
During our 5-hour pregame show?
Yeah.
The Schloss.
Did he really?
Yep.
That was the other voice in there?
Yep.
Because I was, the Wild were playing at the exact same time. So I'm listening to that kind of just to pull highlights. And I heard but I did hear that third voice.
I hammered Schloss too.
Was there.
I hit him with the hard questions.
Oh, yeah?
And we battled.
Good.
But it was good. It was good. And no, we really appreciate him coming on whenever he does. He's always full of information. And, just go ahead, Schloss. Have at it.
He's so awesome.
Yeah.
I decided to give him this week off because we are we've got a nice little roster here of guests.
Yep.
But then we'll work him in next week for sure.
Yep.
I think the off week as we get ready for the trip to St. Louis for the Frozen Four. We do have an action-packed show. Brett Blakemore's Breakaways coming up next. Your buddy Frank Serratore from the Air Force Falcons going to join us.
Yeah, congratulations to him on his 2-year extension.
Yep, and that'll be fun to talk about that with him. And then, of course, college hockey. We love our annual conversations with Frank. That's the text I sent him. I said, Frank, we need our annual conversation on Saturday morning. You available? He says, anytime. Let me know what time, and I'm in. So Frank Serratore, about the bottom of the hour, right around 10:35. Then Ray Ferraro. I think anyone that follows the NHL, follows hockey, knows that name. One of the great voices in our game, and actually was on the call with the ESPN crew on Thursday. Saw the Wild beat up on they didn't beat up on the Washington Capitals, but they got a huge victory, Patrick. They needed 2 points. They got it, and they took down the number one team in the NHL to get it.
And I was having a conversation with Jack yesterday about that. And
do you want to say what you said?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I do. I mean, go ahead. No, why don't I'll let you.
So I'm calling Pat to get him on the show with Cinny.
Yeah.
I go, hey, big win for the Wild. That's a really good team they just beat. And Pat goes, yeah, they weren't really trying. Doesn't really count.
Well, is that what I say? I love when you ad lib. But go ahead.
I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what the effort level was not there for the Capitals. They weren't really trying. They didn't have anything to play for. I'm like, you're the guy who says there's 82 games and every team is an NHL team. It's hard to win games, but then they have a big win against the Caps and just write it off. It's a good win.
It was a big win. I'm not denying that.
Did you or did you not say something along those lines?
I said that the Washington Capitals did not play with the fervor that you will see them play.
I don't know
as we come along.
I'll tell you, Ovechkin was trying. That guy every time he's
trying he's trying to get the record.
100%. But he was trying. His teammates felt like they were trying.
Apparently not.
Was validated by a former Minnesota North Star who is now a scout for a team in the Western Conference. I'm not going to say his name. I'm not going to bring him up. But
you kind of narrowed it down. But a former North Star who's a scout in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he said, you know what? And that's where I got it from, actually, Jack.
Okay.
He said to me, he said, how much effort do you think the Caps gave the other night? I said, why? He said, well, they've clinched a number one spot. there. It's kind of one of those games. And
they were up 2-1. I mean, the Wild had to rally. I
am all about the win. Yeah. I'm all about the win. It doesn't matter. Hey, shame on them if they didn't, play to the level that they're capable of playing.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But that's, and my point to Jack, if he would listen, is that yes, there are 82 games. Some nights you're just not gonna have everything you have in the tank.
Don't the Wild know that? So we got some good talkers, plenty of talking points with the Minnesota Wild, the National Hockey League, the Gophers, college hockey. We want to get you involved. We do have tickets to an upcoming Minnesota Wild home game, and I think they're against the Sharks and the Ducks. So if you want them, all I'm looking for is a talk back. Thoughts on the Gopher season, how it ended, and or what's next for the program. How are you feeling about the maroon and gold as we speak right here, right now? We'll take those via talk back. We'll put a bunch of them, as many as we can, on the air, but randomly we'll grab one or two, maybe even more of those to send you to a upcoming Minnesota Wild home game. Just 3 games, well, 4 if you include today, regular season home games left at XL Energy Center as we make our way down the final stretch of this Minnesota Wild hockey season. So get on the talk back, do that. If you want tickets and you don't win, wild.com/hockey tickets. Before we take that first break, Patrick, I've been kicking myself all week for not bringing this up last week, but a buddy of ours and a buddy of the program is going through some troubles right now in David LeVake.
Yes.
I'm so mad I didn't bring this up last week.
I am too.
I want to do everything we can to get the word out.
I read that and I was just shocked.
Yep. His daughter put together a GoFundMe. David was put in the hospital on March 17th. They thought it was for a stroke. Latest update earlier this week says a stroke has been ruled out, and instead it's been diagnosed with a neurodegenerative condition. I practiced that, and I knew I'd get it wrong, but you know what the word is. Leukodystrophy.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that it's expensive. Whatever he's dealing with, it's going to take a lot of therapy, it's going to take a lot of rehab, and it's going to take probably a lot of research to get it figured out. Already, that GoFundMe page has raised more than $20,000.
Okay.
And unfortunately, that's just a drop in the bucket, and I'm sure everything that he has to deal with, all you have to do, go to GoFundMe.com and search for David LeVake, LaVaque. David LeVake, wonderful writer in the Twin Cities.
Do we know if he's still in the hospital? Or?
I do believe so. Okay. I don't know that for sure. There's a full update available there on the GoFundMe page. Now that I think about it, I do think he might be home. But there's a long road ahead to figure out where to go from where we're at to where he needs to be. So if you can and you have the means, help him out. David's been a great ambassador for high school hockey, for hockey in general, and when someone's
great friend of this show,
without a doubt,
and many other shows.
Have him on every year.
Yep.
So if you can help out, please do. Again, go to GoFundMe.com and help out our buddy David LeVake. More Beyond the Pond when we continue on The Fan.
This is Kevin Gorg, and I'll give you hundreds of reasons to listen to Micheletti.
Whoa.
Good, hundreds. It's Beyond the Pond on The Fan.
Luther. Christopher Paul here. See, I'm really upset over the local media and the lack of coverage over the controversy over the Gophers UMass game. Even the national media covered and were perplexed in the intermission before leading to overtime on why they made us pull our goalie. And the backup wasn't allowed to stretch. Then you have the missed call, egregious call at the end of the game. What's going on?
Hey guys, Tom from Delano. Just disheartening loss by our maroon and gold the other day. I'm just curious, now I just found out Renzel and Moore are leaving, and I'm wondering, what do you think of the guys coming in? Maceo Phillips and the other big kid, I can't think of it, Rombeck. I mean, 2 giant defensemen. These should help out and should fill in nicely. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Keep those talkbacks coming. Pair of tickets coming up for an upcoming Minnesota Wild home game. Wild.com/hockey tickets. You know either of those names?
I haven't. I have to admit, I've never seen any of them play.
Yep.
I've heard. I heard they're both big and nasty. Obviously, when you go from one level to the next level, it's going to take time. But I think people in the sport are very high on both of them, And so that's the beauty of college hockey also, especially, for Bob. It's another new challenge.
Yeah, the old refresh button.
And, instead of, the same guys coming back, it's another new challenge. So it'll be another exciting time to watch and learn and grow. And so, yeah.
The other talkback was talking about the Soulier issue. We were talking about the 2 calls that were missed, but the
I
Soulier
didn't understand
deal.
It.
And obviously Bob didn't either. Bob was pissed about a lot of things. That was right on his list.
No, I was on another show in another state earlier this morning, and, a guy called in and said, well, you should know this. Well, I don't know if everyone goes right through the...
Of course not.
And what was funny is, where we were located broadcast was, I could hear the ref saying, get someone in the net. And Bob's like, well, looking at Lee Gresseth, the equipment man, well, how long is it going to take? Because, you don't want to burn your time out unless you can get it. And it would have taken for whatever the problem was to fix that.
Yeah.
And then, boom, in, drop the puck. I didn't understand it. I still don't know what the rule is, but that's how they played it.
There was about 3 bullet points coming out of that game that did not help. I mean, they did blow a 3-1 lead. Let's not forget they did, and they ended up going into overtime in a game that they were handling quite well. But there were a couple of instances. That one, the high stick behind the net to Middlestad, and then, of course,
cross check to the on the same play.
On the same play, and then, of course.
You see, Middlestad came off. His helmet was up.
Yeah.
And it was right after I'm like, holy.
Yeah.
And they didn't call that one. But, Jimmy Clark had a point blanker when it was 3-1. Mm. And, man, that goes
Could have been the dagger.
Yeah, and that's, again, I'll go back to what I said earlier. You have different plays in the game that change it. And, unfortunately didn't get one there, which would have made it 4-1. Kind of would have sealed it, I think.
Could have been the dagger. The cliche is a game of inches, and hockey is certainly
it is.
Just that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you and I and Jack could sit and watch the game now and say, oh, game changer, game changer, game changer,
sure.
Game changer. That happens, and that's, again, the beauty of our game.
Keep those talkbacks coming. You can also text us at 64686. Plenty of room over the next hour and almost 90 minutes to get into your thoughts on what transpired, especially for the Golden Gophers, but any topic is open for conversation, either via the talkback on the iHeartRadio app or via 64686. A truncated version now of Brett Blakemore's Breakaways.
It's time for Brett Blakemore's Breakaway.
Here's a break. Kaprizov in alone. Nobody going to catch him. Kaprizov score!
And now, Blakemore's Breakaways.
Coming up in just a matter of moments, Frank Serratore. He's the head coach from the Air Force Falcons. We'll get back into the college hockey conversation, but now it's time for Brett Blakemore to take center stage.
That intro is still
it's awesome.
Elite. What a goal call. What an intro. Elite. So, Wild big win against the Capitals. Pat said the Caps weren't trying, so it didn't really matter. It matters, though, in the standings, though, because it does give them a little bit of a cushion. They've up to 6 points over Vancouver for that final wild card spot, so decent amount of cushion. I'll ask you this. Barrero asked me this earlier in the week. What is your DEFCON update for as far as making the playoffs? Just getting in. 5 being no problems at all. Everything is fine. DEFCON 1 being we're about to go to nuclear war, worst case scenario. I think I answered with a 3. I'm fairly confident, but what say you that they get into the playoffs?
5.
That means you're really worried, according to his number system.
No, that's.
Oh, okay, then I'm with you. Yeah. I don't have a worry. I mean, it'd be a worse tailspin than what the Twins went through last year at the end of their regular season. I'm not throwing shade at them, but I mean, that's what kind of a tailspin it would take for them to miss.
That and the teams that are below them, they have to win out. Pretty much.
Yeah. It's 6 points right now for the Canucks.
And it's the National Hockey League, and as Jack...
Well, the Blues are winning a ton right now.
They are, but they're right there with the Wild. I mean, and they're 4 points clear of the Canucks who are on the outside looking in, so... I agree with Pat. Five is no worry. I'd say I'm at a 4.5 at worst.
Yeah, and I'm thoroughly not impressed with the play of the Canucks, so I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I'm fairly confident they can get in, especially with the win against a really good Capitals team. I thought that gives them a fair bit of cushion there. I'll ask you this, though, which to me is completely different scale. Your DEFCON rating of winning a round in the playoffs.
All depends on the health of the team.
Yeah.
Period.
I mean, sure,
and I
for
will
the Wild.
say that with the Washington Capitals, if they lose, player A, B, or C, that or a couple of them are banged up, you can lose in that first round. So you just give me health.
I'll say this much about hockey and the Stanley Cup playoffs. The thing you need as much, if not more, than health is goaltending. And right now they're getting that in spades from Philip Gustafsson. He's playing his best hockey, maybe of his career, right now, and his numbers back it up, especially in the month of March. So if you've got that, along with the return of Kirill Kaprizov and Jules Eriksson,
guess what? You know what? Who could be a early first-round exit that I'll predict right now on this show?
Hang on. Go ahead.
The Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah. They are trending in the wrong direction, and they do not have health.
They don't have health, and their goaltending is suspect.
How come they can, of all teams, why can they not They've got everything going for them. Maybe their defense here and there, but their goaltending has been garbage for a decade.
Yep.
Since the years of Grant Fuhr and Andy Moog,
so
they haven't had goaltending
That's
there.
my prediction. Write it down, Jack, because I'm sure you're going to call me and say, ha, ha, ha.
Which you love to do when I do something wrong.
I never do that. You never do anything wrong.
Oilers currently holding down the third spot in the Pacific Division, 87 points. They've dropped 2 in a row, but they are dealing with the loss of both Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. If you want to blow a hole through the middle of someone's lineup, take those two guys out, and that's incredibly difficult to replace.
225 points?
Yeah. So you talk about teams that are dealing with injuries. Yeah, they're right there at the top of the list with the Wild.
And not only that, right? The team that they're playing in the first round knows they're coming off injuries.
Yeah.
They know what those injuries are. They're not going to beat the you-know-what out of them.
Yep. And that Kings team is good, too. And I know the Wild beat them not that long ago in St. Paul, but that looks like the first-round matchup if everything stays according to plan. The Kings and Oilers in the first round, Kings with the home ice advantage.
Yeah.
Interesting. And you're predicting the Oilers are out.
I think the Kings might go a long way in the Western Conference.
They very well could. Yeah. But you know what? I was very impressed with the Vegas Golden Knights when they were here as well. And they've had a pretty good season.
Yep.
Very quietly, as a matter of fact.
At least the Oilers, they just coming off a Stanley Cup final, so they do have some playoff success. Mm-hmm. So that should be said.
Well, Jack.
Go on.
No, go ahead.
Well, you mentioned, you kind of teed me up with McDavid and Draisaitl coming back. They're going to get the you-know-what because they're vulnerable. Do you think the same thing's going to happen to Kaprizov and Eriksson? Because we don't know how much runway they're going to get, was what the big talking point has been. You got to have 3 or 4 games before the playoffs to get back in the zone. I feel like I'm just not sure. I'm concerned that it's not enough time, and I would like to see them back even earlier than that. But what are your kind of thoughts? Because they are going to be targeted. They are going to be played hard against in the playoffs. To me, that is my number one concern. You said health, but also the targeting factor as well.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to target a broken bone. Are they going to shoot pucks
or a groin? How do you target someone's groin if that's what he's dealing with?
Right. So I think a little bit different situation, and both those guys have been on a while. They're both elite players, and so are McDavid. But we know their injuries and they're fresh. These guys will be coming back, and so I think a little different. I will tell you this: I find it difficult for Minnesota to win in the first round without those two guys and Brodin, playing every game in the playoffs.
Boy.
That concerns me a lot too.
Yeah, and I know this is a topic of conversation for the two of you when we talk about Marcus Foligno, but the return of Jonas Brodin and Marcus Foligno, what they do for this team defensively has been lights out. What Brodin did against Ovechkin the other night, I thought was fantastic. And having those two guys available to help their defensive core and their defensive play going into the postseason, huge.
Can I ask Jack a quick question then?
Well, I've got one more.
Okay, go ahead.
Speaking of defensemen, Denver, I believe, do they play today?
They
Denver
play
in the tournament? regardless of when they play, if they lose this coming game, when
they
are we
play
gonna...
Sunday against Boston College at 7 o'clock, I believe, Central Time, maybe 6.
Will the Wild sign Zeev right away? And B, will we see him in a Wild uniform this season?
He'll sign immediately.
100%.
He'll be here immediately. Yeah. I think he'll be a replacement for Brodin if Brodin is out. Other than that, I'm guessing. It all depends. They may give him a couple games if they get clinched. You know what? This D-corps has played awfully, awfully well. And you don't say, oh, we got a new guy, see ya, to the group that they have.
Yeah.
There's
a big difference. If DU loses on Sunday or if they lose in the Frozen Four, that's the difference between 2 weeks.
Yes.
I mean, April 10th is when they play, and if he goes all the way, that's April 12th. To me, that's a huge difference in the question and how you can answer it. If he loses on Sunday, I think he's available and practicing this week.
Yeah, and they'll see and they'll monitor. And guess what? They may give Brodin a night off, and
sure.
so and rightly so, or Spurgeon or someone like that.
We got to go. We got Frank Serratore waiting from the Air Force Falcons. We'll talk to Pat Micheletti's buddy next. Great job, as always, Brett Blakemore, and your breakaways. Keep those talkbacks coming. We're giving away Wild tickets, wild.com/hockey tickets.
This is Wild's captain, Jared Spurgeon, and you're listening to Falness and Micheletti on Beyond.
Hey guys, great show. Keep up the good work. Just wanted to comment on the Gophers and the season and the way it ended. Thought it was an awesome season, fun to watch. Heartbreaking end, obviously. Really tough calls, but they did play well throughout the whole season. Ups and downs. Got to the big tournament, but just didn't finish the way they wanted to. But good to see them back in the tournament always, and always have a chance, but the breaks just didn't go our way this year.
Keep those talkbacks coming, as you would imagine. That's a big topic of conversation today, and the fact that the Gophers were bounced in the first round of the NCAA tournament. In overtime, they fall to the Minutemen of UMass. Welcome back to Beyond the Pond. That's Pat Micheletti. I'm Kevin Falness. Pleased to go to the phone lines now and talk to another one of those close personal friends of one Pat Micheletti. It's Frank Serratore. They're from Colorado Springs and the Air Force Falcons. Frank, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys doing? This was I love this weekend. I just if you love college hockey, this is, to me, is the Frozen Four is great, but this is the best weekend of the year. I mean, nothing but continuous hockey games. I love this format too. This over 4 days, and it makes all the games better. God, can you imagine if those teams in Fargo would have had to go the very next day after playing those overtimes? But no, it's great. I love this weekend, and love being on with you guys.
It's crazy, no doubt about it. The hockey is fantastic, and I'm going to turn Mr. Micheletti loose on you here in a second, but the unpredictableness of it all, Frank, I mean, if that is even a word, you can't predict what's going to happen on any given night, and you just look at the results there in the brackets. It speaks for itself.
No, and you know what? Life ain't fair, and hockey ain't fair. And in a one-game deal, anything can happen. And that's great. Like for Cinderella, it's not it's not so great sometimes for the favorite. And then the other thing, there's factors that get involved that outside the forwards, the defensemen, and the goalies, and we saw that happen with the Gophers. And I tell you, I'm a Gopher fan, but I don't have rose-colored glasses. But I'm going to speak for Glenn Sommer because Glenn's no longer with us, the biggest homer in Gopher hockey history. That was a travesty. It made me sick. I feel so bad for Bobby and Killer and the boys. They had that game in control, and these officials, like college hockey is getting so good right now.
Yes.
It is so good.
Yep.
These teams are all deep and fast and pro prospects, and we can talk about it later. But it's only going to get better when these CHL kids come in. It's going to make it deeper and it's going to make it better. But these officials, I don't want, let's just put it this way. They need to do their job. they don't need to overdo their job because they can mess it up that way. But, I mean, when there's two calls, the Gophers had that game in hand. It was UMass was dead in the water. And everybody, saw the call, the non-call in overtime. But the one for the second goal behind the net, that was the one that sparked the explosion. That was a trip. The Gophers were up 3-1, and it's a blatant trip behind the net. And they get the puck, throw it to the front. UMass scores, makes it 3-2. I mean, think about that swing. It should have been 3-1 Gophers on the power play, and all of a sudden now it goes to 3-2. But these are calls that I don't care if you are a fan that knows a blue line from a clothesline. They should only be calling the ones those were so obvious, and they were change of possession. To me. I talked to Don Lucia yesterday, and he said he has a thing with his officials and his referee and chief Marco Hunt, in the playoffs, don't call 1 minute penalties, and I agree with that. But these are change of possession and scoring chances. But you have to call that. If you look at that non-call penalty in the neutral zone, all the players, I don't want to say they come to a dead stop, but they slow down to almost a stop because they're all expecting the whistle to blow. Yeah. And then it doesn't, and it transitions back the other way. And, unfortunately, it's not a best of 3 or a best of 7 where the Gophers get another crack. And, to me, it made me sick because they did everything in their power. They were playing wonderfully up to that point when on the non-call on the second goal. And that's just the way I feel about it. I'm not there. I'm not in the tournament. I'm not censored by the NCAA. That's the world according to Frank, like it or not.
How come when we have the Serratores on, I never get to talk? I'm going to talk now, so shh. I want to congratulate you. I saw it, and I was beaming on your 2-year extension. So for that, I congratulate you.
Congrats, Frank.
I'm very happy for you.
Well, thanks, Mick. I appreciate that. My plan, my brother said, what do you should be going to assisted living, not back on the bench. And I said, my goal is to go from the bench to assisted living. I'm telling you, I am not ready yet for assisted living, but I got a couple of really cool places picked out.
No, I think that's awesome because you should forever be in this game and part of it or running it or whatever the case may be. And I have to, Frank and I, Kevin, text during the season here and there and
sure.
Hello and whatever, or, through Tommy or whatever. And he sent me a picture of my brother Don, my brother Don scoring on him, Hibbing versus Greenway. It was
oh my goodness.
Yeah, and that had to bring back some bad memories for you. Always losing to the Hibbing Blue Jackets.
You know what though, Mick? In my esteemed goaltending career, there are a lot of pictures out there of people scoring goals on me. So don't let Donnie get too big ahead about that one.
Right. Oh.
How about these numbers, Patrick? At Air Force, at Air Force,
right?
472 wins and an overall mark of 521, 549, and 111 in 32 seasons as a college head coach. Just the 16th coach in the history of the NCAA Division I hockey to reach 500 Division I wins.
Yeah, what Frank has done at Air Force is beyond. It's just unbelievable, and the number of great players that he's brought in, and I'm sure a lot of these guys are great people, yeah. and he's had a slew of great coaches, and I know he's got a great staff there now. You have Frank, and you're the best in college hockey. There's just no question. Let's talk about the state of the game. You brought it up. Teams are getting deeper and more skilled, and we've beat the transfer portal. Which is so unfair to a team like you, an Army. You can't enter the portal. You can lose guys, but you can't gain any. So what's your overall state of the union on where this game is at?
Well, we've all made it clear we don't like the business that college athletics have become. Hey, I just saw it on the ticker last night when I'm watching a hockey game. You know, the Mountain West is not a Power 4 league, but it's like the next league in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And the Mountain West Player of the Year at New Mexico is transferring to UCLA. I mean, it's like, and it's happening. They moving up the food chain. The agents are in charge, and it's free agency without compensation. It's the Wild West. We don't like it. Now, that's the bad side of it. The good side of it is college hockey is better than it's ever been, and we can see it. I'm watching these games on TV, and can you just, if you're just watching the games and you're watching it go back and forth, like who's the first line and who's the fourth line?
Right.
Like,
no, right.
You can't tell. Mick, when you were playing, I'll tell you, and you were a stud, you know, and watching the Gophers play, you knew who the first line was. Like, it didn't take – if Corey Millen was out there, you knew who the first line was.
Right.
No, these teams are deep. They all can skate. Hey, we're producing more players for the NHL than we ever have, over a third of the players. And now next year, wait till next year, it's only going to get deeper. These CHL kids are going to saturate our market. And it's interesting. I was talking to Ernie last week, and it's, you know, everybody in the CHL, there's 60 teams. I mean, and there's a pile of players that are going to come down, and they're not going to fill in on the bottom of rosters.
Right.
And if they do fill in on the bottom of rosters, they're going to upgrade those rosters significantly. But there's even more to it. Like the major junior kids that were on the college deals with their major junior teams, like if they played a certain amount of years, if they didn't sign a pro contract, the major junior teams paid for their college whatever province they came from. So what else has happened here? Not only are the CHL kids that are presently playing are going to saturate, filter down into college hockey, but these U Sport players, like the ones at the University of Toronto, University of New Brunswick, there are guys with legit major junior resumes that are matriculating in Canadian college. They're legit good players, and they're going to be transferring into colleges as sophomores and juniors or whatever it is. So like it is going to be a massive paradigm change, especially next year, because it happened. I guess in a couple of years it might level out, but the pool is just so much deeper, and there's no question at one time Canadian kids could question, hey, I want to go major junior, it gives me a better chance to be a pro. That's no longer the case. Right now, it's pretty clear. If you want to be a pro, you go to college hockey and play in a men's league. You don't stay in junior and play with the boys.
And one of the things that we talk about, Frank, the players have gotten better. They're more skilled, and they're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. But the coaching from 25 years ago, 30 years ago to today, you're not going to fool any coach in college hockey, are you?
Mick, you are so dead on. Hey, when we played, and back in the day, like it was a player's game.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
And it's not a player's game anymore. It's a coach's game. And like the things that we do now, like the video, how we analyze our opponents and their power play, and all the things. Like it resembles more like football than hockey. And it's interesting. These kids now, like they all learn. Like it's amazing how good they are. Like my coaches will write even a shooting drill, a warm up drill, and there's several parts to it. And they'll put it on the whiteboard, and I'm sitting there, I'm standing there back watching them. I don't know what the hell's going on. If I was a player, I'd be in the back of the line so I wouldn't screw the drill up. And all of a sudden, boom, boom, they go out and they just do it, and it's amazing. And they learn from like the video. Like you show them something on video, like it's we talk about the group of five, like things that we never talked about. Like like you had great skills, but your toolbox and your instincts were off the charts, and that enabled you to be great at that time. And I really believe a guy like you too, you could also assimilate to some group of five structure. It's the ones that have the great hockey sense that also can assimilate into that group of five and do what they do, with the others. Not everybody can do that. And those are the ones that those are the players that are really special. Not, hey, you can score you can have a pile of points, but if you're a minus 17, what does that do for you?
Right.
Right. But you're right. The coaching, and you look at this tournament, and I'm watching. Like I saw it up front and close with Andy Jones at Bentley. What a wonderful young coach! What a great mind.
Yeah.
The coaches at Mankato. What a great job that Troy Ward. I'm sorry, the head coach.
And Luke Strand. Luke Strand.
But yes, I mean, Mike Hastings is maybe the best coach in college hockey. I mean, if you look at Minnesota State Mankato, their game the other day, they don't play any different than they played when they had Mike Hastings as coach. They might be 3 or 4 or 5 players short right now than what he had at the end. But man, are they well coached, and do they play hard? Are they structured in a good way? No, the coaching, the players are better than they've ever been, and the coaching's better than it's ever been. Like I said, I don't like the business aspect of collegiate athletics right now, but if you're a college hockey fan, it's only going to get better. It's only going to get better as we move forward.
Talking to Frank Serratore, head coach there at Air Force. I got to get in here, Frank, and this is completely out of left field. But did the Vikings do right by not going after Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback? You're a good Minnesota boy. You love your Vikings. Would you have liked to see Aaron Rodgers under center here in purple?
If Aaron Rodgers has got 1 year where he can take us on a good run to the promised land, I will take anybody. All I want is 1 year before I croak. And like I said, every year that goes by is one less that I got to hope that we get that purple monkey off our back. So, I still, if Aaron Rodgers still has physically can do it and has the fire in his belly, whatever it takes for the Vikings to get it done. Hey, to be honest with you, like all of this is free agent. We live in a free agent society right now. College hockey, are these rosters going to be set in cement every year? No. Nope. I mean, like next year, I'm not going to be able to recognize the rosters of some of the teams that we played that are in our league. They're going to change so much. And pro sports has always been like that. The bad part, getting back to college hockey, is like at least in pro sports there's a collective bargaining agreement. There's a set of rules.
Yeah.
There are no rules in collegiate athletics right now, and that needs to be put in place. But no, if Aaron Rodgers is the missing link, I say go get him. If not, let's move on and get the next. If we have to develop a guy, if we can get somebody that's a quick fix, whatever it takes to make a run. Let's do it.
Somehow I knew you'd have a great answer for that. Frank, we love our conversations with you. I know you talk to Pat all the time off air, but it's great to hear your voice here on the airwaves of KFAN in the Twin Cities and on Beyond the Pond. So thanks again for taking time, and congrats on the new contract.
No, my pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Frank. Talk to you soon.
There he goes, Frank Serratore, head coach for the Air Force Falcons. It's tough to coach in this day and age regardless, but he's coaching cadets, guys in the Air Force.
You want to talk about, I mean, when the NCAA did all this and blah, 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 what about Air Force and Army? Sorry, guys. You get what you get. And now there's a different athlete, I get it, and student and, mindset that goes in when you go to one of those schools.
Sure.
But you know what? he wins every year.
Yeah,
he wins every year. So
we got to go. We the first hour, a lot of college hockey talk for good reason. The Gophers are a big topic of conversation here for us, and especially here on Beyond the Pond. But when we continue, we'll take a break from that, and we're going to check in with Ray Ferraro. You know that name, ESPN. He was in town on Thursday calling the Wild versus Caps. We'll get his opinion on not only what's going on here with the Wild, but in the NHL in general. Ray Ferraro next on Beyond the Pond.
Hey, Wild fans, this is Marcus Foligno, and you're listening to the best hockey show on the planet, Beyond the Pond, right here on KFAN.
This is Jake from St. Cloud, UMD alum. Definitely on your side, Gopher fans. That was a trip. Should have been called. We were there. Ref definitely flinched and just decided to put his arm back down. I'm not sure why. Overtime hockey, I guess, but should have been called. You guys got jobbed, and that's coming from a Duluth guy, so thanks.
Keep those talkbacks coming. As mentioned in the first hour, giving away a pair of random tickets to an upcoming Minnesota Wild home game. Get your own at wild.com/hockey tickets. Just a few games left on home ice in the regular season. Hopefully lots of action coming up in the postseason. But
speaking of Duluth, and he was going to join us had the Gophers won. The head coach of the UMD Bulldogs from the beautiful city of Duluth, Scott Sandlin. So I spent a lot of time with Scott when I was there.
How's he doing? We haven't talked to him this year. He's not happy about it, is he?
He's doing great. He'd rather not be on the NCAA committee.
Sure.
He'd like to, but he's very enthusiastic about what he has, and by watching his team this past year, I would be enthusiastic too. He's got some really good young players coming up, but it was fun to get his perspective. We had dinner together, and in fact, he yelled at me. He said, "You tell Falness that I'm the only Division I coach in the state who has not been on the show." I said, well,
you
for
put
me,
that on me, didn't you?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. I
great.
said, Scott, we'd like to keep the best for last.
Right.
He said, "No, you don't." He said, "You ran out of guys." I said, "Well, okay, come on." And but then I said, "You still going to come on?" And he said, "No."
No, he will. He will. We'll call him next
week. No,
he
said no because he had to be at, he was busy today.
Okay. So we there's a chance we could track him down next week.
Oh, yeah. I said we got the whole month of April for sure, and we'll have him on.
What about Brother Joe? He's as elusive as a Sasquatch. Why can't we track him down?
He's in. I didn't want to wake him up at 8 in the morning, although he's probably up.
He did a late one. I watched their game. I actually sat on the couch and I flipped around.
So he had to go from
games.
Anaheim to San Jose. I don't know how far that is, and I don't want to bug him.
Regardless, it was a late night last night.
And you know what? If the Rangers were competitive, I would say, then we could them on.
But I mean, they're not out yet. They would have loved to have 2 points last night. They blew it against a bad Ducks. I say a bad Ducks team. I know you're going to jump on that one. But, I mean, in the standings, that's a team that's below you, and you're battling for a spot in the playoffs. That's 2 points you have to have.
The Rangers were out since November.
They're not out, though. Look at where they sit in the standings.
The Rangers have been out, though.
On the outside looking in, I got you. Right now, they're at 75 points, tied with the Blue Jackets for the second wild card spot in the East.
I think they've checked out. And poor Columbus, because I think, by the way, our former coach, Dean Evison, has done a fabulous job with a very young team, and watch out for them in the near future.
Yep.
They've got some young studs. But they've been ravaged by injuries also.
That's another game I sat and watched last night. The Canucks and the Blue Jackets trading haymakers. There was zero goaltending
Columbus
in that
ended up winning that, right?
It was the Blue Jackets that rallied after having to rally. Vancouver was up 3-0 after one.
Yeah.
And I'm watching this game. The Canucks it was the Blue Jackets that scored late in regulation to make it a 6-5 hockey game. Vancouver scores like that much later, like 30 seconds later. They go down the ice, they score right away. So it's 6-6 through regulation. Right. They end up in overtime, and the Blue Jackets do finally get it done. But I mean, that's just it's a crazy race in the Eastern Conference. It's the same thing in the Western Conference. It's going to come right down to the wire for some of these teams that currently on their outside.
Who's your pick to win the Cup?
God,
too early.
I'd have to think about it here for a second.
Yeah,
because
I don't want to put you in that position.
Well, who's yours?
Florida
changed.
Panthers.
Still the Panthers.
Yeah.
Well, they get Kachuk back. That'll definitely help.
Well,
them.
you know, got an assist on the winning goal last night.
Brad Marchand finally made his Florida Panthers debut.
Yep.
I mean, you talk about two guys that like to play with sandpaper.
Yep.
You've got now Kachuk and Marchand on the
and
same
they'll
league.
get Ekblad back after his steroid use.
Yeah. Do you like the Jets? I mean, like for the team to come out of the West.
You know what? You know, they're the Jets, right? They're the Jets, and we don't think about the Jets very. How often do you think about even having them in our conference? How often do you think about the one? You think about the Chicago. You see the Chicago Blackhawks more than you see the Winnipeg Jets.
It feels like it these days,
right?
Yeah.
And so I haven't put that much thought, you know. But you look at the Jets and their record and their goaltending, and you know they made a splash at the deadline that wasn't like, oh wow,
not like what Dallas did for sure.
You know, in terms of the big name, but they got a solid name so. To the Jets fans who are listening up in Winnipeg, you know, yeah, they got a chance.
Who's the team to beat in the Central? And it looks like it. And I don't even know that it'll happen, but it looks like it's going to be Winnipeg, Dallas, Colorado, probably in that order.
Yep.
Winnipeg faces a wild card team. Most likely it's going to be Colorado and Dallas. What do you like of those three?
Oh, boy. That will be where... after that series is over, we will be talking about the trades that they made at the deadline, right?
Yep.
And one team is going to get hammered for it, and one team is going to say, wow, what a great move by either of these GMs. So, but my pick in the West is still going to be Vegas or the Kings.
Interesting. As I look right now, I mean, Vegas has won 5 in a row. The Stars and Avalanche have each won 4 in a row. The Jets have won 2 straight and 7 of their last 10.
Yep.
I mean,
who does Jack like? Oh, boy.
Who are you picking out of the West there, Mr. Blakemore?
I like Dallas. I think they're a good squad. Got a lot of depth scoring, really good goalie in Ottinger.
Love their goaltending. And they get Heiskanen back. Did they expect Heiskanen back
that
for
would
the playoffs, right?
You know, there again, man. They get him back. Ooh, that changes how they play a little bit too, right?
We're waiting on Ray Ferraro. He is actually with ESPN in Detroit, and he's waiting to talk to their head coach. So at some point, hopefully, we got Jack Capuano joining us at the bottom of the hour to talk a little bit about the state of the Minnesota Wild. But hopefully Ray has an opportunity to squeeze us in. We talked about the breaking news earlier today, Patrick. We already knew Jimmy Snuggerud was signing with the St. Louis Blues, entry-level contract. He's going to make his debut at some point. Frank Saravalli tells us not only has Sam Rinzel and Oliver Moore signed their entry-level deals with the Blackhawks, that's been made official by both the Blackhawks and the Golden Gophers. And Saravalli's saying both are expected to make their debuts tomorrow afternoon against Utah. How about that thrown right into the fire?
Wow.
Little big boy hockey.
Yeah, and they'll be playing against Logan Cooley.
You're right. That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, good for them. And, you know, I love both those kids. You know, I mean, they compete. They're talented. And, you know, you wish him the best.
Let's see if we can squeeze in a break, and then hopefully on the other side we'll be joined by Ray Ferraro. If not, we can open it up to the phone lines.
I'm told Heiskanen is not, thank you, X-person, Twitter person.
Okay.
Heiskanen's not expected back until the second round.
Wow. Okay.
So we'll see.
That's still a loaded team. Whether he's there or not, that certainly helps them, but they aren't.
Yeah.
It's not just down to one guy for them.
It's like making a trade in the second round.
Yeah.
Or in the, for the second round of the playoffs.
Interesting. All right. Well, so that's the deal there with the Dallas Stars. Quick break. Send in your text, 64686. Talkbacks, keep them coming. Random Talkback is going to get a pair of tickets to see the Minnesota Wild in one of their final remaining home regular season games. You can text, you know how that works. Use the Talkback on the free iHeartRadio app, or you can call us 800-320-5326. If we don't have Ferraro after the break, open phone lines next on Beyond the Pond.
I'm Jonas Brodin of the Minnesota Wild, and you're listening to Falness and Micheletti on Beyond the Pond right here on the Fan.
Good morning, guys. It's a really interesting time period right now for college hockey in our state and then also along the border with North Dakota and their coaching change. St. Cloud State and UMD had rough years, but they have a lot of young talent on the roster. And now the Gophers, with all their losses here, are going to have a slight rebuilding period. Not that we expect them to miss the playoffs, but let's go Gophers and let's go Minnesota teams. Let's see what kind of rebuilding we can do fast.
Love the talkbacks. Love the interaction.
Great
Keep them
ones.
coming. He talked about the turnover at the University of Minnesota. This from Elliot Friedman on Twitter. We already knew about Oliver Moore, Sam Renzel, Jimmy Snuggerud. Elliot Friedman says, expected to join Nashville sometime soon, Matthew Wood. So one and done for young Matthew Wood.
What do all four of those players have in common?
They're pretty freaking good at hockey.
Yeah, that's one.
What else?
They're all first-rounders.
Yeah.
And
so it's not a surprise.
So not a
Still,
surprise.
You've made the case many a times that another year of college hockey ain't going to hurt.
Yep.
And you would say that to Oliver Moore as well, I assume.
100%. I would. I bet a year from now. Well, I don't want to say necessarily with all those guys, but when you talk to guys who leave early, I haven't found one yet that haven't said, man, I wish I would have came back for one more year.
Yeah.
But that's not, I mean, the times have changed. I get it and understand it. And I'm not saying, oh, boy, what a dumb mistake that they made. They feel like they are ready to take a next step. So that's what they're going to do. And you wish them luck and all the success that they can have.
Another school taking another step. The University of North Dakota. We talked about it last week.
Boy.
We thought possibly that was the rumor that maybe they were ready to move on from Bradbury. You and Schloss both disagreed with that decision.
100%.
But over the course of the
Still
week,
do.
they put down the hammer. Bradbury out.
What are we
with the
doing?
Fighting
What are
Hawks.
we doing? I mean, are we going to base it on base our in this? And Frank laid it out how great and how hard college hockey is now. Right?
Yep.
And, you can give me this BS about certain standards and this and that, and the bar is here, and go and try to win a national championship. And, Brad won his first year. His players love him. He wins every year. I think, what did Schloss say? 3 of the last 5 Penrose Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
If we're going to go on, did you win a national championship last year? Fire them all. Fire them all, right? And rehire, and then do the same gosh darn thing the following year, because it is so hard to win. You need a lot of things going your way. And I know there's frustration. I get it. I know that. And the passion of the fans is fabulous, and we love it. And maybe it's just getting stuff off of your chest, whatever the case may be. But it is awfully, awfully hard. And, yeah, there's going to be dry spells and longer dry spells and shorter ones and in-between ones. And that's it, that's the way it is. But if that's the bench line, fire every coach every year if you don't win the national title.
Yeah, and that's what's going on in the college scene. Bradbury out at North Dakota after a long and lengthy run there with the Fighting Hawks. On the NHL stage, John Tortorella is out. No surprise, because that's a guy that runs hot and usually has a short leash anyway.
My good friend Brad Shaw.
Yeah,
who was a teammate of mine over in Europe.
Okay,
he's
picking up the pieces.
Yeah,
now.
been with Torts a long time. I'm actually surprised that I know he was interim with the Islanders a few years back.
Yep.
Excuse me. And so he, I hope that they eventually name him the head coach. Brilliant hockey mind, brilliant, wonderful person, level-headed. I think that is what they need in Philadelphia.
And they have great leadership there. I mean, and you say what you will about John Tortorella. He's got his detractors. Yep. Very entertaining to follow.
Yep.
But when you got Danny Briere and you got Keith Jones running the ship there with the Flyers, you like to think at some point it's going to turn around for him.
Yeah, and I don't know what the reasons were.
He got into an altercation with Cam York
and
that has become public.
Yeah,
but then also his comments. He was talking about, maybe I'm not the right guy for this. This time of year,
I can't coach these guys. Yeah,
I mean, you're asking to get the.
Sometimes
the
I think he goes a little too far.
Mm-hmm.
But he won a Stanley Cup. He won a Stanley Cup with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I don't know. And yeah.
I got a couple of phone calls I want to get to.
Yeah, let's get to them.
320-5326. You can also text us 64686 and keep those talkbacks coming. Booth at KFAN.com wanted to squeeze this one in, though. I don't know what you know about Bentley hockey, but a email came in, would appreciate a mention of Bentley hockey. Their head coach, Andy Jones, played at Minnetonka High School, graduated in 1996. Their first year ever in the tourney, winning the Atlantic Hockey League, played a great game versus 1 seed Boston College before losing 3-1, but good to see a Minnesota kid elevated to the next level and did some great things with Bentley.
I have heard nothing but great things about him as a coach and, what he has done with the Bentley program. And they played a heck of a game.
That's a tough draw, though. You get BC. That's not easy.
Right, And so good for him, and I'm glad that came through.
All right, to Mark in Rochester, welcome to Beyond the Pond, my friend.
Yes, I just wanted to reach out. Coach Motzko had brought the team down here before the tournament started, and I was able to talk to him briefly and express my appreciation for him as a coach and just a person, and just got a quality program there. And not only is he developing amazing athletes and developing them, but he's making some great men to reach out in the communities. But again, a tough blow, a tough end to the season, and I just reach out to the coach and the team. We're proud of them. It's hard to swallow, and no fault of anyone on the team. Just a fun, another outstanding season. So go for strong. Keep it going.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. And that's a great call. And that's something that we don't talk about enough either. On the off week, Bob brought his team down to Rochester. And they, wanted to, just to get away and try to keep somewhat normal, procedure getting ready for their next game. But what did he do? Right? He brought his kids to an elementary school. And I can tell you as a kid, and if, a Bulldog player, a Gopher player, a Husky player, Tommy, Beaver, they come to your school and and they interact with the little kids like that. The smiles, so these guys, and we got a great collection of coaches in this state and throughout college hockey, and they do stuff outside of the hockey and develop, and they Mark was right in that they're developing these kids that they play with, that they play under them to become good leaders and good men. And, we forget about that sometimes. So great call, Mark.
If you want to get involved, we got about a half hour to go. We're going to grab a break now. We'll be joined by Jack Capuano, associate coach for the Minnesota Wild on the other side of break. Give you a preview of the Wild and Devils. That's coming up later on tonight. 4:45 pregame right here on FM 100.3 The Fan. Puck will drop at exactly 5:08, live from XL Energy Center. As we go to break, I should mention the Minnesota Frost. They're hosting the Toronto Scepters tomorrow at noon. They're hanging on to a playoff spot after tomorrow. I believe they're off for about a month as they head to the Czech Republic for the Worlds. So it's a last chance to see them until late April. Good seats are available, but they're expecting potentially 10,000 people in St. Paul at XL Energy Center. So it should be a great atmosphere. If you want to get tickets, you can go to the Frost website. You can go to Ticketmaster.com or go right into the box office and save the fees. It is the Frost hosting the Scepters tomorrow in St. Paul. Quick break, and then Jack Capuano next on Beyond the Pond.
This is Wild head coach John Hines, and you're listening to Beyond the Pond with Falness and...
With this being the last time that the Caps are going to play Marc-Andre Fleury, this is so cool. The Capitals wait to shake hands with the future Hall of Famer Marc-Andre Fleury. He and Ovechkin, longtime 20-year rivals, as the Caps show their respects to one of the game's great ambassadors.
To me, that wasn't only one of the coolest moments I saw Thursday night when the Wild hosted the Washington Capitals. That's one of the coolest moments I've seen ever. Alex Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals
Pure
shake
class.
the hands of Marc-Andre Fleury
Pure
there
class.
at center ice after losing in St. Paul. 4-2 was the final.
I still want Fleury back, by the way.
Well, I do too. I don't think I think that ship has sailed, especially the way things are going here down the end. But in terms of Ray Ferraro, that was the voice of Ray Ferraro there on ESPN. I have exchanged text messages with him. We'll get him on next week. He had a coaches meeting there. They're in Detroit getting ready for their national coverage later on tonight with the Red Wings and the Bruins. So we'll put him off until next week, but we will not put off Jack Capuano, associate coach for the Minnesota Wild, joining us now.
And Maine Black Bears.
On Beyond the Pond, former Maine Black Bear. Jack, that's Pat Micheletti. I'm Kevin Falness. Welcome to the show, and good morning.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
Go ahead.
Well,
Kevin.
I was just going to say, we've got a million different ways we can go with this conversation, but what did you take away from the closing of that game on Thursday night? A couple of future Hall of Famers at center ice shaking hands in an orchestrated moment led by Alex Ovechkin.
Yeah, well, for me, it brings back some memories because obviously coaching the Islanders and being in the Metro and competing against both of those guys in the playoffs, Washington with a Game 7 with Barry Trotz, and then obviously when Dan Balsma was in Pittsburgh, Game 6, and Marc-Andre was there. So the respect factor for both those guys and the careers that they had, it doesn't surprise me, that Ovi called the guys back out and they got to share that special moment.
Yeah, just classy. Hey, Jack, I know you have an affinity for your former college team and the resurgence of the Maine Black Bears, who unfortunately lost yesterday to Penn State. But it must be nice for you to see your former program, get back, to the top of Hockey East and get the program, rejuvenated, if you will.
Yeah, no, I knew this was going to come up at some point, especially with Pat, and we'll get down to Lake Placid here in a minute. But it is good to see. I mean, they've gone through some struggles over the last few years here, but they've done a real good job. The coach has done a good job recruiting. That's obviously, and with the landscape of college hockey now and the way things are working and as complicated it is, you have to stay on top of things. But one game, anything can happen. And but it is a proud moment for a lot of former alumni and a lot of guys just staying in touch and seeing where the program is back.
I'll tell you this. Pat was having a conversation off air. I said, hey, we're going to have Jack Capuano on. And he was bragging about his results against the Gophers and the Maine Black Bears back in the day.
But that was early in their program, Kevin. So
how do you remember that meeting?
Let me navigate through it. So 85, 86.
Yes.
Okay, so that's obviously my first year. We go out, they beat us, I think 9 or 10-1. Dougie Wooks coaching the team.
His first year.
And they're talking about bringing your varsity team the following year. But after my freshman year, I think Maine's one of the only programs to go on and win 30-plus wins.
Yeah,
so
that was unbelievable.
That brings me to 88, right? So we go to Lake Placid. We're ranked 1. Minnesota's ranked 2. We lose to Lake Superior. They lose to St. Lawrence. And then at that time, you had a consolation game the next afternoon.
Yes.
And but we did win the game 5-2.
Well, I wasn't there. I was gone after that year. After your freshman year, And I think I don't want to rub it in, but I think we had Kevin. I want you to look that. Kevin wouldn't look the score up, but that I do remember that game, Jack, because I scored my 100th goal against you guys. And I also got hurt that game, but that's beside the point.
But I don't want to brag.
But the program, under Sean Walsh, and it just it went on to win national championships with Monty and Korea, and that's I'm very happy to see the program get back because college hockey needs a school like Maine to be at the top, and that's wonderful to see.
Yeah, I think back, obviously Minnesota, Michigan State, Denver, whatever.
Yeah.
But back, it was always BU, BC, right? In
Yeah.
the East, and then Maine, and now you see the parity. You see the parity in the league, even watching these games going through. So, like you said, it's really good to see, some of these schools start to rebound.
Yeah, and if you recall, and I don't know if it went on after, which would have been my senior year, but we had the interlocking schedules with Hockey East, which I thought. I know from the Western guys, we loved coming out east. I love going up to Maine to play,
Sure.
and BU and BC, and then they got rid of it for whatever reason. But that was a fun year that year.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. And like in my first goal in NCAA was Colorado College. So
Yeah,
that
right,
interlocking schedule.
right,
So
right.
It's you always remember those things, and going to the different cities and playing different guys, but it was a lot of fun, obviously.
Yeah, let's talk about your Wild team, and you go through the whole season, and you got 3 of your top D out, okay, and all right, you get through that, and then you lose, 2 of your top forwards, another guy's in and out. Explain to me how, and I can explain it thinking what I think, but you tell me, just the resiliency of your team to just stay in the moment, keep on playing, not make excuses, and this is where you are, because of that.
Yeah, well, I think the main thing is and you've been through this, and and the old cliche, next man up. But the one thing as a coaching staff that we've tried to stress here, and I think all our coaches, I know Heinze in the past, myself in the past, when you go through this, is it's team first mentality, and it's making sure that brotherhood stays together and that we continue to grow. And I think the organization's done a great job. Like if you look at the depth that they if we didn't have the depth that we had in Iowa to come up and fill some of these holes, so
right.
Credit to them. But and obviously our goaltending's been real good. But it's that team first mentality, staying together and making sure that we understand that the little things are the big things, the intangibles of the game is how you win. So you can have the most skill, as you know. There's certain teams that spent a lot this summer. They're not where they want to be. But we just strive on playing good defense that's going to lead to great offense.
Talking to Jack Capuano, associate coach for the Minnesota Wild. Wild on the ice tonight, hosting the New Jersey Devils. Pre-game coverage starts at 4:45 right here on The Fan. Puck drops just after 5:08 with Joe O'Donnell and Tom Reed. Jack, the play as of late, I think, has been pretty good. But especially this week, you weren't getting the results. You go and play a very tough Dallas team. You take on Vegas. You fall short in both of those. And you're taking on the number 1 team in hockey on Thursday. The end result was awesome. The handshake and all that other good stuff. But how incredibly important were those 2 points?
Well, it's important, especially at home in front of your fans, because if you just, not that you really want to look at the standings, but obviously the way St. Louis has played as late, and then Vancouver and Calgary, points matter. And that's what we try to stress in our game. Details matter. So we just want to make sure, like you said, we continue. They're important games to win. Hopefully we can continue on and play the hockey we need to play and get some guys back and make a run at this thing.
Pat and I were talking about the importance of Jonas Brodin. When he's not in the lineup, it's a glaring, obvious omission. And now you get him back for a couple of games, and he's doing his thing. And especially Thursday, trying to limit Alex Ovechkin. How important is Jonas Brodin in a matter like that?
Well, obviously, Broads' play speaks for itself. But on the back end, when we're trying to match up, now you got 4 guys. Not that the other guys can't do the job, but when you go into the matchups of the game, you don't have to focus on just maybe Middleton and Faber against a top line, because when you play the depth of these teams like Dallas and Washington, as you just mentioned, I mean, their top 9 is as good as anybody. Their top 6 is as good as anybody. So just having the depth of him back here to give us some minutes and alleviate some minutes from the other guys, it's big, especially down the stretch here when these guys are playing big minutes, not only 5-on-5, but the special teams as well.
Hey, Jack, I get asked this question a lot, and I don't have the right answer, and maybe you don't have the right answer because every player is different. But for example, let's and we can throw names out there. Heiskanen for Dallas, Kaprizov here, Ek here, McDavid, Draisaitl, all guys that are out, that are expected to be back, et cetera, et cetera. And the question I get is, well, there's going to be rust, or it's going to take X amount of games. I mean, does it really come down to, I look at it, for example, from, elite players, they get up to speed pretty fast. Doesn't take them long. But what do you think is the norm for a guy who's been out for a while to get back to the way he can play?
Well, I think you just mentioned it. You just talked about veteran players. So when you have veteran guys that have been through this before, I don't think it takes much time. For instance, like we're not going to let our training staff and our doctors, they have to be healthy. They're skating right now, as we know. So the biggest thing is you can skate and you can condition all you want, but as a former player, as you know, it's that physical battle. It's that bump and grind that's going to be the biggest challenge for guys to come back in the time and space. But with Eki and Kaprizov and Brodin and McDavid and Draisaitl and Heiskanen and these guys that you're talking about, they've been through it before. We've had guys step right back in the past that I've coached, and it didn't take them long at all.
Yep. All right, so what's the scouting report? You get a season series over the span of 3 days with the New Jersey Devils. It's a home and home, and it starts tonight in St. Paul. It's a Devils team that's been struggling. They're going to the playoffs. They're pretty well secured into a spot there in the top 3 in their division. But what are you expecting over the next 3 days, including tonight?
Well, the New Jersey, you can talk about Jack Hughes and Dougie Hamilton being out for them. Obviously, it's a big piece of their game. They're an exceptional rush team. They're third in the league with screenshots on net. So our box outs are going to have to be big. But there are some. We play our best no matter what the opposition does. We play our best when we play North. We start bringing pucks back and we don't play a North fast game. We get ourselves in trouble. But they're a good hockey team. They're a structured hockey team. They didn't get the results, obviously, last night in Winnipeg with the 4-0, but it's a quick turnaround from them. We've all been there. We expect their best, but, they have some skill. And that no matter who you play in today's game right now, you talked about it earlier about us not scoring in Dallas. There's not a lot of room this time of year. There's not a lot of room out there. So, the team that understands who you're out against, your clock management, your puck management, the little things of the game. And those are the teams that are going to win. If we can stick to our game plan like we played the last 3 periods against Washington, we always even Dallas for that matter, we give ourselves the best chance to win.
The message from John Hines out of practice yesterday was enjoy the process. Enjoy this time of season. It's not easy. There's going to be hard moments, but enjoy the ride. For you, you're in the thick of a playoff chase as associate coach for the Minnesota Wild. Are you enjoying this run towards the end of the regular season?
This is the best time of year. You work so hard in the off season, and then you come to training camp, and the guys put in the effort they put in. All the coaching staff puts in the effort. Support staff puts in the effort. This is the most exciting time because no matter what the race is and where you are in the standings, we control our own destiny. And if you would have asked the guys that coming back in September, if this is where we stood right now, everybody would have taken it. But this is the fun time of the year. You can't give them too much video. They know the systems. You give them a little bit on the opposition, but this is where that they have to take ownership. I mean, as coaches, we can prepare them to the best that we can, but I feel even as a former player and even coaching other guys, this is their time. So we just try to do what we can, get out of the way, and let the guys enjoy themselves.
Jack, thanks for the peek behind the curtain. Also, thanks for the trip down memory road. That was fun to go back in the time capsule there.
For sure.
Thanks, Jack.
All right, thanks, Jack. Good luck. Jack Capuano, associate coach for the Minnesota Wild, behind the bench there with John Hines and staff. Again, on the ice tonight. Pregame at 4:45, puck drops just after 5 o'clock. Joe O'Donnell and Tom Reed, all the play-by-play action. A good opportunity over the course of the next couple of days, Patrick. Again, they were on the ice last night, were the New Jersey Devils. They got blanked by Connor Hellebuck and the Winnipeg Jets, but a good opportunity for the Wild to kick them all they're down.
Yeah, and, he mentioned 2 guys that I didn't bring into the 4. Dougie Hamilton and Jack Hughes.
Yeah.
How's Jersey, who had a great year? I mean, they were like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, when they were healthy, guess what?
Yep.
They're not healthy now. And so how are they going to be going into the playoffs? So, you know, that's some of the things that we always need to keep our eyes on with some of these teams.
Yep, no question. When we talk about goaltending, of course, the cool moment with Marc-Andre Fleury at center ice with Alex Ovechkin. But the star of this team, from my mind, I know he's had his ups and downs in the middle part, but Philip Gustafsson, to me, has been the MVP of this team. I don't know where they would be without his goaltending, especially down the stretch and in the month of March. Are you ready to hitch your wagon to him? Is he your number one goaltender? I'm not only talking about this year and in the playoffs, but at some point, I believe he's a restricted free agent on July 1st.
He's earned the right. I mean,
you throw your money at him and say, this is our guy?
He's had, he's had those peaks and valleys, right, of years. But again, and when my thoughts on the goaltending situation, and I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about goaltending, but I know it takes guys in front of you to protect them a little bit. But he's made the saves, and he's made those other saves this year also. Why would you not? Why would you not? Is there? Yeah, I'll put it to you this way. Is there a reason why you wouldn't extend him and keep him as your number one? And to me, there is no reason that you would not.
It's hard to find a number one. Ask the Edmonton Oilers.
Right?
Ask any number of teams.
You can go searching. You can go and you can pay more money for a goaltender. You know, Markstrom, in Jersey, he's been fine. He's been hurt a lot. But, it's not like he's, Tradiak, and you know what I mean?
Yep.
And he's making $8 million. So you got to be smart. I think Gustafsson thoroughly enjoys his time here.
Yeah.
And so why not?
Let me ask you about Matt Boldy. A goal and an assist the other night. His 99th career goal ended up being the game winner of the hockey game. His 9th of the season. That's a franchise record for game winners in a season. Matt Boldy's had his detractors. A guy that they want him to carry everything
right across the glass
without Kaprizov in there.
And that's the thing. People got to the guy's a freaking stud. Yeah. And really, you don't want him? Really? Oh, he goes 4 or 5 games without a goal. Oh, really? I mean, it drives me a little insane sometimes when players, you're not going to do it you're not going to get 5 points every night, but man, oh man, I'm very, very happy that Matt Boldy is on our team.
Agreed wholeheartedly.
Does that make sense to you or no?
Let me ask you about a couple of depth guys. How about the turn and the resurrection of Freddie Gaudreau? 5 goals all of last season, now 17 goals on this year. I know, but he's provided a very valuable piece of the depth scoring.
There's no question
and especially
about it.
With
he's
the
got
way
18 goals. And
this team's been hammered with injuries.
I'm anxious to see him in the playoffs where, it gets a little bit different. But, hey, he's filled in and, he's that Swiss Army knife. And hallelujah.
No doubt. The breaking news coming out of to start the show, we knew Jimmy Snuggerud was going to sign with the St. Louis Blues. He's gone. Oliver Moore, Sam Renzel, they agreed to terms with the Chicago Blackhawks. And Frank Saravel, he says they're going to make their NHL debut tomorrow against the Utah Hockey Club, or maybe it's Monday, whenever the Blackhawks play next. I think it's tomorrow. And now Matthew Wood expected to join Nashville sometime soon, says Elliot Friedman. So those are 4 significant pieces gone from your Golden Gophers. They're going to look incredibly different next fall.
They are, and I don't think we're done yet. I think there may be one or two more that potentially might be moving on. We'll see. I hope not, but again, we all really good kids, really fun to be around, and you wish them all the best.
I know how you're going to answer this. Please don't direct your anger towards me, but I'm getting texts from on 64686. What would you say to anyone that says that Bob Motzko should be on the hot seat?
It's comical. It is. Why was Brad Berry on the hot seat?
Right.
It's comical. It makes me laugh. To even have to answer a question like that
No doubt. And I knew that would be your response, but I wanted you to have an opportunity to say what you wanted to about Bob Motzko. Obviously, a tough, difficult end to the season, but Is there ever an easy way to end a season? Even last year, it was heartbreaking.
I mean, we all want to win it every year, you know, and they're just so difficult, and you need so many things to fall your way, and you make things and all that kind of stuff, and you know, you just keep going after it. That's all.
You were supposed to be in Fargo today.
I was, but that's okay. Yeah.
What do you got planned for the rest of the day? Now you got a free Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, a lot of basketball today.
A lot of basketball?
Yeah, I'm going to watch Yeah, I think they start at 5 o'clock, so I'm going to, you know, maybe the Houston Open is on, so I'm going to watch a little golf.
NCAA hockey, I'd have to assume?
I might take a day off from that, to be quite honest.
You've had enough. You're burnt out.
For today.
Will you watch the Wild tonight?
Yes, I will.
I tried to get us a fan line. And again, unfortunately, the Gophers didn't cooperate, but it would have been awesome.
I think once the playoffs start, that you and I.
You have breaking news?
I don't, but I have an inkling that we're going to be going all the way to mid-June, Kevin.
Okay.
How's that for?
I'll take it. I'll sign up. Well, Brett, are you in for that? All the way through mid-June?
Let's do it.
The voice of Brett Blakemore, Pat Micheletti as well. I'm Kevin Falness. Thanks for joining us on Beyond the Pond. A great show with a lot of cool guests, including Jack Capuano. Awesome to hear from him. Always love talking to Frank Serratore. He was great as well. And we'll push off Ray Ferraro until next week. For all those involved, thanks for joining us for another Beyond the Pond. Yes, the Gophers are out, but look outside. I was going to say the sun has risen, but did it? It's going to snow here in the Twin Cities. Forget that.
What's that all about, Kevin?
See you next week on Beyond the Pond.
For an extraordinary advantage in sports, you need a game plan. For an extraordinary advantage everywhere else, all you need is Acrisure. With a high-tech human approach to insurance, cybersecurity, and more, Acrisure helps you take care of what you care about. That makes winning easy. See what Acrisure's extraordinary advantage can do for you at Acrisure.com.